Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. I hope you're doing well today. It is Friday, so let me remind you real quick before we begin that we will be having a live stream today at 3 p.m. Alaska time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Alright ladies and gentlemen, so hope to see you all there. I'm going to talk about a couple of things. I'm not going to bring up any articles or any slides or anything like that. I might put a clip here or there while I'm editing the video, but I want to talk about a couple of things that's going to result in the end thing that they want. And who's they? Are overlords. The government, the Federal Reserve, the central banks of the world, etc. Those people that want to have a one world government. It's not hidden anymore. This is not something that you can't talk about freely anymore because it's not hidden. Remember back when it used to be conspiracy theory? It's no longer conspiracy theory, right? You can just go search on the internet and you'll see exactly what's the plan for humanity, right? But that's a plan for humanity without us having a say in it, right? So I digress. So I just happened to come across an article which I consider actionable intel here not too long ago, a couple of days ago, and I actually recorded this video already once and erased it by mistake. But anyways, I came across this article where it said that the United States Congress was doing a bipartisan bill in order to try to mint coins, dimes, nickels, quarters, half dollars, with cheaper metal than they are now because it's getting too expensive. And the first thing that I thought about when I read that was, well, first I thought about Rome, right? And what happened to Rome and how their demise came about and how much what the United States is going through here in the last 100 years or so pretty much correlates pretty close to what Rome was going through during the end of their empire. But the first thing that really hit my mind was a picture that I saw a couple of years back, and I haven't revisited this picture again, but I will do so before I edit this video and actually put it up because I'm sure it's worse. Well, a few years back or a couple of years back, I remember talking about a bag of plastic pennies on Amazon that were being sold for like teachers to teach kids how to count and stuff like that. But that bag of 100 plastic pennies at that time I think cost like $2 or $3. And I made a comment to the point of that, you know that your currency is in trouble when it costs more to buy fake money than what the money you're using actually is valued at. Meaning that those plastic pennies that you're buying from Amazon or wherever you're buying them from actually cost more than the real pennies that you're using to pay for them. You know your currency is in trouble. And that's the same thing that we're seeing now with this bipartisan bill going through Congress, saying that, yes, we need to use cheaper metals because it will save the taxpayers a lot of dollars. Well, I look back to Rome, and towards the end of Rome, their metallic money had almost no value whatsoever because it had been debased to an extent where the people were no longer willing to use it. And when will that day come for us here in the West, specifically the United States, because this is where I live, right? This is my country. When will that day come? Well, in my opinion, it's already almost there. It's already towards the end of this cycle. That human beings make time and time and time again, and we just don't want to learn from history. And a reason for that is because we're just not taught the right history. We are taught the history that fits the agenda of whatever government is in place. So it's not 100% the fault of the people, but we should look out there for solutions and ideas as to why it is that the things that are happening are happening. Like, for example, can your pay keep up with inflation here in the last 20 years? Most people would say no. Some people will, of course, say yes, and those are the ones that are in the club, right? And then some people that are not in the club necessarily could say, yeah, my pay is kept up with inflation because they just hustle. They live a life of hustling and hustling, and they understand the system. You know, I follow this YouTuber, his name is Johnny Bravo. He understands the system. He knows that the system is corrupt. He knows that there's no way that a working person will ever be able to keep up with inflation because the system was made such as that your wealth be stolen from you if you are a wage earner or a salary earner. That's the way the system was made, so that some people can be enriched while you continue to work in order to enrich them. Well, go over and check out Johnny Bravo's channel, by the way. He is hilarious, and tell him to make sure to put Skylar on as much as possible, right? It's very funny, and he gives you very good information. But this is not a channel about propping up Johnny Bravo. It just happened to come to my mind. The fact that the government can no longer afford to mint nickels and dimes and quarters out of a certain metal because it's too expensive, it reminds me of Venezuela. Back during the height of Venezuela's financial collapse, which in my opinion they're still going through, but back in the height of it, I remember reading an article where Venezuela could not even afford to pay the company that printed their bills, that printed their paper notes. They couldn't even afford to pay them. You just wrap that one around your head. You know, it's incredible. So what's going to happen is the same thing that happened in Rome. We are going to experience in the United States and the West the end of an empire. Back during the Roman era, one of the things that really messed them up back there, and I'm not a historical scholar, okay, so please bear with me. I just know the bits and pieces that really matter, you know, in the long game. But back during the Roman era, one of the things that really messed them up is that they spread their army thin. They spread their government very thin by wanting to take over the world. And they taxed the people to an extent where the people could no longer afford to live. They were only living to pay taxes. And when they couldn't directly tax the people anymore, what did they do? They started debasing their currency to the point where their currency was worthless. And in order for a society, for an economy to exist, you need to have a way in which you can trade value. And when there's only one party taking and the other party just giving, there has to be reciprocity between a government and the people. It can't just be give and give and give and take and take and take. The only time that the government gives is when it wants to buy votes. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Think of it. Think about how the government politicizes everything. Now, they politicize every single thing, especially whenever they're doing something that pleases or appeases their voting base, no matter what party is in office, right? That's why they have a PR department. They have a PR department more so to champion what they are doing for their voting base than anything else, ladies and gentlemen. So when we get to the very end of this financial system, what's going to happen is that the Federal Reserve will then take over our daily lives. You see, I'm not going to go through the history of the US dollar all the way back to 1913. I'll just go all the way back to 1971. In 1971, Richard Nixon gave the Federal Reserve, right, the last vestiges of any control, of any power that we the people had over our money. And remember, money is really everything when it comes to how you live your life. Right? Because your labor is represented by the money that you're paid for that labor, right? And your labor is your personal property. It's everything that you own. Your personal property is everything that you own, and that represents your labor, or that's represented by your labor. So in 1971, when Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard, which gave the people a say over how the country spent our money, right? That's the only thing that gave the people a say about how our country spent our money, was the gold standard, right? He took that off, and now he gave the Federal Reserve 100% control on how much your labor is worth. Think about it, ladies and gentlemen. If the Federal Reserve has the control to be able to say how much a dollar is worth through inflation or deflation or disinflation, however you want to call it, then they control how much your labor is worth, because they're controlling the value of the dollar and you get paid in dollars. So he gave the Federal Reserve 100% control of how much our money is worth. And now when we turn to the next event, great event, right? Because this is going to be a great event. Something big is going to have to happen in order for the Federal Reserve to jump in there and convince the people that, hey, this is the way we should go. Right now, the way that it works is that the Congress has the power of the purse, but the Treasury gets to spend the money and gets to put the money out into the economy. So whatever the Treasury borrows, whatever the Treasury or the government borrows, and whatever the government takes in taxes, it goes through the Treasury. The Treasury makes payments to whoever it is for whatever the government wants the country to do, as far as, hey, we want to build roads, we want to build bridges, we want to pay people or give people entitlements for SNAP or for Medicare or whatever, right? But it goes through the Treasury. But now, ladies and gentlemen, instead of the government, the Treasury, right? This is key, because instead of the government doing this in the name of the people, because the people are represented by Congress, it will be the Federal Reserve, who is a private institution that was never elected into its position. People may say that it was, but it wasn't. You know why? Because even if it was, it's unconstitutional, 100%. People want to think that the Federal Reserve is federal and that it has reserves, when it's neither. The Federal Reserve, ladies and gentlemen, is unconstitutional, but that's another video for another day. All right? And the reason it's unconstitutional is because its primary duty is to govern the value of the dollar. People say, well, it's to make sure that employment keeps up, it's to make sure that there's enough money in the system, interest rates. All of that has to do with them governing, saying what the value of the dollar is. It's unconstitutional because the dollar is unconstitutional. If you read the Constitutional, I forget what article it was, I think 10 or something like that. I don't remember what article it was. But it says there, plain as day, that, gold and silver are the species to be used for money, to be coined for money. That's it. Gold and silver. It was put there plain as day so that people can read it plainly and say, okay, gold and silver, that's it. That's what we need to use for money, and that's it. Right? It's going to be coined for money, and that's it. And I understand we live in a world that's digitized now. However, we have ways to digitize a gold and silver backed currency, but the government does not want that. The Federal Reserve does not want that, because without fiat currency that they can print out of thin air, they cannot steal your labor. And this is what you have to understand, that when the next big event happens, and I don't know what it is, it could be a major banking collapse that's systemic, it could be a collapse of the stock market, I don't know what it's going to be. Maybe a volcano, maybe Yellowstone will go off, right? Or I'm being hyperbolic there on purpose, but I don't know what it's going to be. But the fact of the matter is this, is that they are going to do the very best that they can in order to introduce this CBDC. And when they introduce the CBDC, it may be named CBDC, it may be named Fed Now, it may be named Fed Coin, whatever it is. But it's going to be a system by which the Federal Reserve solely provides you with funds, bypassing the Treasury or the Congress. The Federal Reserve will be able to determine who to send money to whenever they want, money that no one ever earned into existence. At least with taxes that are taken from us, that money was earned into existence. But now the Federal Reserve will be able to just add money to the economy whenever it wants. And they'll eventually be able to tell you where you can and cannot spend that money and how fast you have to spend that money before it disappears. And the reason I'm making this video is because I believe we're getting closer to that time coming. And we have to remember that now is the time for us to prepare so that we can resist that when it comes. So that we can all give them a big fat no, N-O, when it comes. And if we have to resist for a month or 2 or 3 or 6, that we are prepared enough that we can do so. Because ladies and gentlemen, this goes way farther. This reaches out way farther than just our lifetimes. We're talking about preserving liberty for the lifetimes of our children and our grandchildren. Because if we go down this road of a Fed coin or a CBDC or whatever it may be, I believe it will take more than a generation or 2 before we can come back from it. I just think it's a terrible idea, but many people don't understand what we would be getting ourselves into should we accept this Fed Now. And this is where I'll leave it off, okay? So I don't make this video way too long. I can already see us getting too long. If we do end up with a Fed coin or a CBDC, whatever they want to call it, and they've already, listen, ladies and gentlemen, the Banks for International Settlement, I forgot the name of the guy, all right? Some Hispanic guy, who's in the Bank of International Settlement. He's already said, and I put out videos about this, he's already said that one of the reasons why a CBDC is crucial is that they can control our behavior. You have to understand that they can control our behavior. So getting back to what I would do should we be forced into this CBDC or FedCoin thing. Because I'm convinced that every single American, at least, already has a FedCoin account. And they're waiting for that big event for the Federal Reserve or the government to say, hey, just download this app and there's going to be X number of FedCoins in there and you can spend them in these places, right? And people are going to jump on that. But this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and turn their game around on them. I am going to go ahead and take those, whatever it is that they issue, and I am going to spend them. I'm going to spend them on things that will preserve my wealth, right? On things that will actually burn those Fed coins out of the system. And what's that? Purchasing precious metals. I'm not a financial advisor. I have to say that because I'm on the internet. But imagine how awesome it would be if you took your Fed coins and you purchase precious metals with them, if they let you, that is. But if it is a real currency, if there's nothing wrong with that currency and people should be fine with having it, why wouldn't they let you buy precious metals with it? Precious metals, according to their own words, are just commodities. So what would be wrong with buying precious metals with them? That's what I would do. And for those people that are not prepared, I would say take those and just prep with them as best as you can. But mainly, the best way to fight them, in my opinion, is to take them out of the system by buying precious metals from them. Having said that, let me go ahead and let you all go because I know this has already gone by way too long. Thank you very much to every one of you that are still here. All right, God bless every one of you. God bless America. I'm Alaska Prepper, and I'm out. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to support yourself and this channel by preparing with companies that I like and trust, then please consider taking a look at the links within the description of my videos. There you will find anything from long-term food storage like nutrient survival, how to protect your wealth by getting a free consultation with ITM Trading or Genesis Gold Group, emergency antibiotics that you can acquire legally, and power generation in the case of a grid down scenario. These are all companies that I trust and whose products I believe in.